video with a little story. So imagine yourself, as me and my friends were riding our motorcycles. We're probably into day 5. We're just traveled up over the mountains. We're getting into an area where we can fill up with gas. We've been through some dirt roads. We look pretty haggard, but we also look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Men with helmets and boots on. And we pull into this gas station, and this guy pulls up, and he's on a cruiser. He pulls up next to me. I'm filling up with gas, and so is everybody else. Oh, how much gas did you put in? How much gas did you put in? And this guy looks over at me and he says, "You know the difference between me and you? I don't plan on crashing, and you do." And I thought to myself, right then I was sort of like, what the heck? I mean, it threw me off, but I was thinking, yeah, I plan on crashing. I don't want to crash, but I do plan on crashing. And I looked over at him, and he's got a Hawaiian t-shirt on, and no helmet, and no gloves. He's got jeans on, and he's got some tennis shoes, and he's just cruising on, and he's having a good time, but he's not planning on crashing. I'm not going to get into all of the safety equipment on this video, but I did want to talk about boots. So let's get into boots. Maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I did a blog on the different boots that I've worn over the years for riding, racing, cruising, whatever. Today I want to cover 2 of my favorite boots, the best boots I've used, and both these boots I've got over a decade on these actual boots, so they've lasted more than 10 years. But to kind of cover an idea why you're going to go with boots. So there's some obvious choices. You don't want to be using flip-flops or Tevas for riding your motorcycle. It seems stupid, but I see people on scooters with these things. It's a really, really bad idea, for obvious reasons, I think. But then it gets into a little bit less obvious, like wearing tennis shoes. And the problem with just wearing a shoe, there's no protection, right? They're super flexible. As soon as you fall, and if you watch videos of people having crashes and their shoes flying off, these things will fly off if you just kick your foot. So really not a good idea. And we get into just regular boots. Absolutely love these things, but I don't wear them on the motorcycle. They are a lot stiffer, but still they have a lot of flex in the sole. And the thing is, these do have laces all the way up, so they come up over the ankle, so they would they'd stay on your feet. So that's a bit better. I wouldn't be so upset, seeing somebody with these on, because at least they'd stay on their feet, right? There's no ankle support, so you want something a bit better than that. Overview of that. I got my cowboy boots on, but I wouldn't wear these. These would fly off too. If I did a cartwheel, these things would go flying off. You'd probably never find them. They just don't. They're not attached to your feet in some way that they would stay on. For all-around riding, my favorite boot has been this boot right here. I'll show some close-up pictures of this boot. They are a TCX. They call them T-Dry, so that they have a liner on the inside that is, I think it's like a Gore-Tex liner. They're waterproof. They have a sole on them that has some traction. So these boots now, 10 years, these are about 10 years old. These are comfortable. I can wear them all day walking around. I could do some short, do regular hikes in them. I can, walk around town. I could go shopping. I could go out to dinner. They actually don't look bad on your feet, so they kind of they meld in. They have a really great ankle protection disc inside the boot on both sides. They've got a shift lever guard on both boots, which is kind of weird, but I think they just wanted to look, normal. The newer one of this one, they've melded this in somehow into the boot. It's a full grain leather. They have support through the sole so that the toe will bend, but the center part won't, so the arch won't bend. And that keeps you a little bit more protected. These boots are fantastic. I wear them on my Goldwing. I wear them on cruiser bikes, sport bikes. I even wear them if I'm going downtown on my adventure bike, because or if I'm not going off-road, I like these boots. They're just so comfortable. Now, the one thing I will tell you, take a lot of break-in, because the leather is so thick that it took a long time for these to feel as comfortable as they do now. Just a lot of wearing them. So I think the newer models, they've done some things to kind of soften them up a little bit to start out with, but that's kind of a forever boot. I mean, I've had these 10 years, they still look pretty good. You'll see the pictures. There's some wear and tear. All right, so that's my everyday boot. Absolutely love these things. Can't say enough about them. I highly recommend those boots. They have lasted a long, long time. Next, for adventure bikes, now I do have like my race boots, but I don't wear those on the adventure bike because on the adventure bike I am going to end up having to hike a bit. I may have to get traction to move, walk down to help somebody else with their bike, may walk down to a creek, wear them around camp. And I bought these. They're the Alpine Star. They're the Toucan boots. They're a Tech Series boot. And there's some pictures here that you're going to see of these boots. These are also a Gore-Tex boot. Now, here's what I want to say about this being a Gore-Tex boot. The outer shell of this boot is mostly plastic. You can see some leather parts in and around here, down this side, and around the back, and then just around the top. But the boot's not going to breathe itself, so having it Gore-Tex is somewhat of a gimmick, I think. But if on looking on the inside, that's where they put a Gore-Tex material inside that's supposed to help it breathe, so that the vapor comes off your foot and goes into the next layer of the boot and then somehow possibly breathes out the top. What I will tell you is that this boot is waterproof only up to here. Ask me how I know. But no, if you go into a creek, they're going to fill up with water and they're not going to leak. So you just have a completely full boot of water and need to drain them out, and then they will stay wet. What I did find, though, is that these boots, being the Gore-Tex type, with this liner, whatever they've done with the liner, and I think they've got some that's not Gore-Tex that still has this stay dry liner, they dry out faster than some other boots. Now, these boots are over 10 years old, and you'll see some wear points on them. I'll point out in the pictures, but on this side of the boot, and then again on the bottom of the boot, you're going to see some significant wear. I wore these on my race bike. On that bike, I had sharpened pegs so my feet, won't slip. And the sharpened pegs destroy the bottom. It cut open the side of the boot. It really did a lot of damage. These boots are not like your motocross boots. And part of that is you'll notice there's 2 buckles rather than 3 buckles. A 3-buckle boot usually is for motocross, enduro, that type of off-road riding. You see 2-buckle boots, those are usually for adventure rides, less aggressive. And the reason for that is they put a little bit more flex in these boots. Like, you can't do that to my motocross boots. These are great for adventure riding, not for off-road racing or anything like that. One thing I will mention to always be careful of when you're buying boots is look at your buckles. And the buckles, you want to make sure that there's no loops or holes in your buckles and that they don't stick out. A lot of times they make them stick out in like a flange, or they have a little hole in the buckle part itself in like a handle to like aid in opening it. But the problem is that branches and things come through and they will go through those buckles, and if it's strong enough, if it's like a wire or something like that, it could take you right off the bike. You want it as flush as possible on the sides. Just looking at boots, I love these. These are super expensive boots, but hey, it's been 10 years and I'm still riding these. I have made a couple of little funny repairs on them. The sole on them is great for doing little hikes. I've done hikes in these things, not long hikes, but a mile or 2. I used to bring 2 pairs of shoes on all my adventure rides, and with these I can just wear these and I'm usually comfortable with it. My last adventure ride, that was Colorado BDR again. I took these and I took these sandals for around camp. I think I realized that having open-toed shoes around camp isn't the greatest because your feet are getting dirty. So I'll usually bring some kind of a closed-toe, shoe I can get wet. But that worked pretty well. So Alpine Star, these are the Toucans. They are my favorite. They're the best boot I've had for doing adventure riding. These, which are the TCX, these are the best boot, all-around boot that I've ever used. They'll stay on your feet because they got laces. They come up way farther than your ankle, and absolutely love these boots. I can highly recommend these boots. Anyways, guys, that is it for today. I think we'll get into some of the other riding gear. I've changed out my riding gear completely. I'm no longer the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man that I used to be doing adventure rides. But we'll talk more about that and about how I'm wearing my stuff, all that protection sort of more on my body rather than in my suit. So then I can wear whatever I want. That's ends up being a lot better. Anyways, that's for now. Have a great day.